Hi guys, and welcome to yet another review. This time around I'm bringing you the CVJ Bidong. This is CVJ's latest IM. It's their flagship hybrid. They have a flagship all-BA, which is the Kaikumo. And this is their flagship hybrid, a 1 Plus 6. Anyway, this is the box that it comes in. And very much like the box of the Kumo, nice. The theme here is love and Valentine's and so on and so forth. So they've kind of they've done the effort. They've put the effort. And then they have a nice poem going on there and everything. Anyway, they've made an effort. Some flowers here, if that's your thing, and then over here we have the carrying case, which I'll show to you in a second, and a whole bunch of accessories. It brings a modular cable, so you have the 2.5, the 3.5, and the 4.5 and 4.4 termination. It's got nice supply of tips as well. It brings this other adapter to USB for those phones that no longer or have a headphone jack. You can connect it up with this adapter that's also included. So it's got a nice accessories package. Let me just pack this away. That's the carrying case, an all metal affair. I would have liked if instead of just being this fake carbon sticker, that have maybe actually engrave the name CVJ. Give it this is their flagship, so give it a little bit more of that extra touch of premium. Okay. And the cable, it's a nice cable. I'm not going to deny it's not a nice cable, but when you start getting used to things like Jazeera, the 41T with its nice cable, the CKLVX D41 with its nice cable, you expect something with a little bit more diameter, a little bit more gauge to it. Nice termination on the plug side. Not so much on the IM side. I mean, this just looks very cheap, and again, it's in the details where you actually see the things. I can give them the credit for attempting and trying, but it's in the details. As for the shell, it's an all metal shell. It's got air. It's got an air of something else that we've seen in the market as well before. So there's a touch there of a similar design to other IMs. It's got a good size, but the weight is very low, so it actually fits quite nicely. The only problem is that this ear hook, at least with me, is a little bit too intense, and so the IM has a slight tendency of wanting to be wanting to be pulled out. I will, and I did actually try a different cable, and that was resolved. But for the sake of the view, obviously I just used the stock cable, so you guys could see what the stock cable is like. So that's really the only issue there. The cable can maybe pull the IM out of your ear, but it depends on you. But overall, look, let's be honest. The nice accessories, nice case, nice cable. Just the small little details that didn't hit the mark 100%. As for the shelf, it's a nice shell. It's on the bigger side, but it's not heavy, so it doesn't cause any fatigue wearing it. It's a nice overall IM, and I think, fair enough. It's $180. This particular unit I got it from HIFIGO. So at that price you are of course going up against a very stiff competition. You want to make sure that what you do it properly. All right. So what did I select here for our comparison? The CVJ May, for obvious reasons. I think it was probably one of the most underrated IMs of the whole of 2023. Switches, two switches that basically put on the two BAs that it brings internally, so because this is a 1 plus 2. The Freedom, 1 plus 4, again the switches, they add the BAs into the equation. I actually have it running in the 1 plus 3 format, which is the format that for me just sounds the nicest. All metal shell. Build quality is always pretty decent with CVJ, at least these latest models. On the top there, Pula PA02, because of all the traction and all the attention it's getting. I thought it was interesting. And an oldie but goldie, the Full P Performer 5. I've also got the other Butas too, but that's for a little topic which I'm going to at the end mention, which also affects a lot of the IMs here. But I have a chair for that reason, not because I want to compare it with these. Okay, so let's get into this and let's jump into this sound. What is the sound of the Bidong? It is and it isn't a V-shaped signature. And how can I try and explain that? Graphically, when you look at it, it's got monstrous bass. We're talking like 12, 13 dBs of gain into the bass, but a more civilized gain into the mids, upper mids, and treble. And when I say it is and it isn't, it's because on certain songs, on certain music, if it is, excuse me, my apologies. If I'm listening to less complex songs, so if I'm listening to something like Deeper from Pete Velasco, or if I'm listening to, let's see another one. It Had to Be You from Jack Ross. You don't notice that it's a V-shaped. It's got a pretty nice execution of the mids and the upper mids and the highs. But then on other songs, you notice that V signature being more prominent. And one of the songs actually was No Ordinary Love from Sade. The mids just got scooped out there somehow, and it could have been just me, but no, because I found other songs which also came across like that. Like, for example, Long Road from Steve Oliver. Also, I felt that it was missing a little bit of the mid information there. So I'm not going to call it an outright V. I'm not going to say it's not a V. It's a high energy, if you want to call it, it's a high energy set. It's got a lot of energy across the board. But depending on what song you're listening to, it can come across a little bit V. Let's put it that way. Bass, it's got a lot of bass, sub bass and mid bass. It's a clean, very incisive slam. Good speed, doesn't have any difficulty handling more complex tracks. So with regards to the bass, no issues. And the part of the bass which is for the most, the bass is very similar to the bass of the May. It's just below 100 hertz, where this has got just a little bit extra energy. Where again, it's very relative. You might notice it here or there in some songs, but overall, although it's got a little bit more energy than the May, I didn't really notice that it was that evident. Okay, and why? Because again, this has got the mids, upper mids, and treble, which are way more intense or energetic than in the May. So they basically balance them out. Actually, if the same way the May, I would say it's probably a W type signature. I would probably say that this can sometimes, on certain instances, come across as kind of like a W-ish type of signature as well sometimes, just a more intense one. Okay. Mids, like I was saying, clean, detailed, with certain songs, especially with female vocals. Vanessa, oh my god, what a blank I had now, trying to find the other song, my apologies. With Vanessa Fernandez, you do find Here But I'm Gone, you do find that sometimes in the during, on certain passages of the song, you do notice the BA timbre a little bit more than what I would have expected and more than what I would have desired. Okay, but not offensive or not anything that's going to be probably a deal breaker. And then highs, clean, detailed, but the only problem with the highs is that, yes, there in the upper mids and the treble, you do notice more that BA timbre. It's just being done a little bit too much. And that's where I think the first, not criticism, but the first thing that I would have liked to have seen done on the Bedong is the inclusion of some switches. Maybe not as they've been implemented on the May and on the Freedom, to just basically add and subtract BAs, but some switches that could alter somehow the whole mid and high frequency signature, response slightly. I think the switches would have helped clean up that BA timbre somehow. Okay, that would have been nice. But again, like I said, for the most, it's not bad. It's not that you can say, oh, okay, no, it's been done badly or anything. No, you just notice that BA timbre a little bit more than what I personally would have liked. In terms of its technicality, soundstage, it's okay. It's decent. I was expecting, being a OnePlus 6, excuse me, and being at this price, I was expecting for it to have a soundstage which would have been just a little bit larger, but it's fine. Good imaging, good detail retrieval. Good the detail, the issue with having this prominent upper mids and treble is obviously that then the detail retrieval is going to be pretty decent. It is pretty decent, the detail retrieval. Resolution very good. The timbre and tonality is mostly fine for me. Although on certain instruments, string instruments and trumpets, it can be just a little bit colored. Okay, for example, if I listen to "Keep Pushing" from Les Sabler, it's not that it sounds wrong, but the guitar can sound just a little bit like it's been slightly equalized. Let's put it that way. And I'm saying this because when you compare it, when you listen to that song on the Pula or on the full, those two sound more realistic. Those two sound more correct. Okay, even to a certain extent, on the May, I actually prefer this particular song, "Keep Pushing" from Les Sabler, more on the May than I did on the Bidong. On the other hand, a song like "Lazy" from Bump to Soul, fantastic. I mean, it's a song like I've mentioned in another review. I've been listening to a lot of Bump to Soul. I really like the instrumentals, and I like the way they and the music that they play. And not bad. On the Bidong, I was quite impressed. Not bad at all. So I guess that basically covers it. Well executed frequency response. You don't really notice any major faults. At least I didn't consider any major faults. Would have liked technically for the soundstage to have been a little bit bigger, a little bit more polished. But above all, the thing that I would have liked was the inclusion of switches, just to make the BA timbre and tonality to be just a little bit more controlled, or then just tune it so that it's a little bit more laid back, not as forward. Because yes, at lower volumes it's very nice, but when you start pushing it, it can be just a little bit overly too intense, too energetic. Now, having said all of that, we're going to touch up upon the first thing, which, I mean, we already know that whatever source you use is going to affect it. So I tried it with a whole bunch of different sources: the Yuki, the Cayenne, the Full, the Snowy Night, the CDA. I tried it as well with the Colorfly, the M1P, which I have here, the Martha, the S9 Pro Martha, and without a doubt, this sounds better with warmer sounding sources. So Colorfly, CDA, a Full, Yuki, the Simgot, these sources will give it a more balanced out sound. Won't emphasize too much the higher frequencies, and thus bring out more that unnecessary energy that sometimes occurs. Okay, I guess that basically covers the Bedong on its own. Compared then to what I have selected here. Well, compared to the May, look, OnePlus 2, this is OnePlus 6, this is $60, this is $180. It's 3 times the price. Is it 3 times the sound quality? To cut a long story short, no. In the bass department, they are very equal. Where the Bedong will outdo the May is in terms of that mids area, that mid-range area there between 2 and 6, more or less. This instead of having dips and no, this is more plateaued. You'll see when I show the graph. So you get a more forward presentation. Female vocals come across nicer, guitars come across more intense, trumpets come across more intense, more live, more there. Now it's down to whether you like that type of presentation or not. Is it wrong or isn't it wrong? I guess it will also be very much on an individual basis. I like both styles. I like both this more laid back presentation, let's put it that way, but I also like this forward presentation because it's actually quite well done. Okay, so I'm not going to say that this is better than that. I'm going to say that there are two very different ways of They have two very different ways of playing music, and I mean, you could say that this would be a good complement for that. Yes, you could. Is it an outright better IM in everything? No, it's got it's got areas where it is better than this, and you know the value will again be very much dependent on you. Are you prepared to pay 3 times the price or not? Or maybe, you know, see if you can pick this up on a smaller on a lower price, on a discount. Maybe then it will make more sense. Compared to the Freedom, it is a better IM than the Freedom, and it is a better IM than the Freedom because the Freedom, in its 1+4 setup, which I don't like using it, it's way too intense in the upper mids and treble. In its 1+3, that energy comes down slightly and gets more balanced. And so it sounds more similar to the Bidong. But the Bidong, like I mentioned, it's got the same style of bass as the May, and the energy is very similar. This has got the same style of bass in terms of how it's been executed, but less energetic than these two. So it sounds thinner, leaner. It doesn't give this. It's not that it doesn't have slam or impact, or no, it does. But when you compare it to these two, it's got less. And so what basically kind of happens here is you have, let's say, a warmer, more lush, organic type of presentation. Yeah. Over here, you've got a thinner, not, I wouldn't say less warm, just thinner presentation that tends to put more emphasis on the mids and the highs. And over here, you have kind of the in between the two. You are able to get a lush presentation when you have two, but also equally detailed and more detailed than this, definitely. Like I've mentioned earlier, but more polished in its detail than this. This one just comes across a little bit harsh when you start going past certain volume levels. Okay, compared to the Puller PA02, not graphically, you look at, you're not going to think that it's even a fair comparison, because this comes across as very neutral sounding. But when you actually listen to it, the same way as here, the bass doesn't sound as intense as what the graph might show. Over there, the bass presentation, the lower frequency presentation, is way more energetic than what you would be led to believe. The Puller's got, in my opinion, fantastic mids. Actually, look, compared, you know, they are full, the Performer 5. You guys that follow me know that it's one of the IMs that I usually recommend, because I think overall it ticks more right boxes than the ones that it doesn't tick. And that, coupled to the fact that it's got a competitive price, $180, it has made it an IM that I usually suggest. It does basically everything well. I'm not going to say that there aren't IMs up to this $200 price bracket that might not even do something, certain aspects better. But the one that does the most things correct is their full Performer 5, in my opinion. And the Puller is also in that same type of category. It does a lot of things right. And overall, when I compare the Puller, and by the way, the CLK VX D41, and people, I've got 2 sets of each, so I've compared them. It is the same IM. Honestly, until somebody can actually prove to me that they aren't the same IM, it is the same IM. And if there are some reviewers, like I've seen, that have got those 2 IMs and they graph differently, slightly above 5K, it's down to just unit variance. Because like I said, I've got 4 units, 4 D41s, 2 D41s and 2 P802s. They graphed the same. Okay. But now going back to this, which matters. Those two are neck and neck. I mean, very equal. They basically cost the same thing, roughly between $160 and $180, depending at what point, or if there's any sales going on or anything. But they basically cost the same thing, and they are priced up right against the Bedong in a very competitive manner, and that's the problem. That's the biggest problem I think the Bedong will find, which is it is being placed in a segment which is highly competitive. And I haven't even mentioned a few other IMs that are also there. We're talking about Truthiers Nova. We're talking about excuse me, the Chopin. We're talking about Chopin, not Chopin, because I hear some people say Chopin. No, it's binary, this audio binary, Chopin, the artist, the composer, Chopin. Chopping, I can't understand that. I'm not saying that I don't make mistakes, I do, but Chopin. Okay. Anyway, so its biggest problem really, it's not those little small minor details in its build, or the or maybe the music, how it plays music, that a few details here and there could have also been slightly better done. Its biggest obstacle is that it's priced at a value where you have a lot of very, very competent IEMs. Like I've mentioned, the Puller, the D41 from CKLVX, the Chopin, the Performer 5, you have as well the Cara, you have the Truthiers Nova, and slightly lower you have also the EM6L. So you got a lot of IEMs priced at under $200, which are very, very good performers. And it's for you to stand out, much like the single DDs under $50 and under $100, you really have to do something unique. You really have to have something which grabs people's attention, and that's where I think maybe here not enough was done. They should have maybe made a little bit more consultation with those people that they trust in terms of reviewers or people which are knowledgeable in the market, to just get it absolutely fine-tuned. Having said all of this, do I recommend it? Don't I recommend it? Well, I'm going to say to you the following. If you have something like this, or like the Aful, or some of the other, like if you have a Nova or something, it's going to be hard for me to say yes, no, go out and buy this because it's better. No. If you have maybe a OnePlus 4 which isn't as good, if you have something more basic and you are now wanting to upgrade, obviously you're then confronted with this variety like I've just mentioned. I would say, if possible, try and have a listen. Try and listen to it. Try and audition it before you actually commit to buy. All right, that's my opinion. Anyway, guys, I'll show you now the graphs. And if just before I show you the graphs, if there are other IEMs that you guys would like me to compare with the Bidong, I'll be more than happy to do so. All right. Oh, by the way, with regards to this Butas Tour and as well with the CKLVX and even with the May, now in the graph sections you're going to see why they are here, especially the Butas Tour, and you will see in a very easy way actually what the effects of different dongles are in terms of the frequency response that an IEM can have and can graphically then be shown. All right, anyway, let me jump into the graphs and we'll talk now. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section. Let me just now quickly show you the graphs, and I'm going to show you the graphs of the Freedom. Okay, number 5, there we go, and 6. This is the graphs of the Freedom, either using the Acme, and with the Acme I include on that group of the Acme, which is one of the dongles that I usually make my measurements with lately. Okay, this one here, Acme Audio. I also use the Rose Techniques RZ500, which uses a 9038 ESS chip. This uses a 4493. And in that group, this is the blue line is the measurement that I get. The brown line is the measurement that I get using the full Snowy Night or the Yuki or the Martha S9, the S9, sorry, Martha. So, you look at it and you think, okay, it's basically the same, there isn't much difference. However, the interesting thing is, if I take the CVJ May and I measured as well, and the May, there we go, let me just take the first two out. When I measure the May, we get this result. So using the Acme, it measures the top end significantly lower and noticeably also lower than the than using the Aful. And when you listen to the May on the Aful or on the Acme, you do notice that it sounds better on the Snowy Night, unquestionably. If I'm using the Rose Techniques RZ500, which also has the same sort of measurement as the Acme, again, the same situation. So therefore, the way that it's measuring also translates to a better sound quality. It actually does sound better, okay? And then finally, the Bidong. And the Bidong, you either get this, or you get this, or you get this. Alright, so the first line, the bottom one, is using the Acme and similar DACs to the Acme. It gave more or less the same measurements. And then the other two is using either the full, the green, or in the red, it's the S9 Martha. And when you listen to it, you definitely do notice that what you are listening to is more equal to what this graph of the full or of the Martha is than what the graph of the Acme is telling me. The graph of the Acme is telling me that this IEM is very, very dark sounding, and it isn't. The fact, the reality is that it isn't. It actually sounds just like the S9 and the full is showing. Now, let's take away the ones that are on interest, and let's just leave here they are full, and just do a quick analysis here. Bass, in terms of the bass, we have a gain of 13 dBs. In terms of the pinna gain, we have a gain of 7 dBs. So nicely done here. A little bit intense there, but when I start showing you with the others, you'll see that it's not as bad as you think. You will also think, like I was saying, oh, this is going to be a massive V shape. It doesn't come across like that. That's why I was saying sometimes it sounds like a V, sometimes it doesn't sound like a V. I would say that this is probably, I don't know, this is a hard one for me to actually say. It sounds like a neutralish warm than necessarily a V, but sometimes it does sound like a V depending on the songs. Now, if I take, for example, my apologies. If I take the Freedom, number 6 here, and I compare it, you start seeing, okay, in terms of the bass, yes, there is a bit of a difference, and audibly you notice. And on top here, although you see some differences, the interesting fact is, because you don't have as much bass on the Freedom, the Freedom actually ends up sounding to an extent thinner across the whole board, and you don't really notice these dips as you'd see here. Now, the more interesting part is when I take the May. When I take the May, let me just make it red here. When I take the May, excuse me, the May measures a little bit more in terms of the bass as the Freedom, a little bit below the Bedong. Actually, the bass of the May and of the Bedong in my books, it's the same. It comes across as being exactly the same. I don't see this extra bit here. I didn't notice it. And as well, there's so little music that has got that much information below 50 hertz that I didn't really notice it. Now, in the mids, yes, between that, the upper mids and treble, I did see the Bedong being more complete. And at mid volumes, lower mid volumes, it sounds more full, more detailed. It's got more information there. It sounds more, it just sounds more complete. Both of them have got a very interesting presentation. That's why I can't really say, oh, one is outright better than the other. Detailed retrieval, yes, is better on the Bedong as compared to the May, but the May has got this nice organic way of doing things. So they both sound really good. But ultimately, the Bedong does edge it out slightly. Now, the thing is with the Bedong is you have always got that slight BA timbre more present than either the Freedom or the May. So it's a hard one. If I have no issues with choosing the Bedong over the Freedom, and honestly, okay, fair enough, the price there's a difference still. It's $80 versus $180, but I have no issues in choosing the Bedong when compared to the May. It's an upgrade, but I don't know, I'm not too sure about that one day. Anyway, that's that part done. And now, compared to the full Performer 5, so let's put the Performer 5, that's the Performer 5, and let's put straight away as well, let's throw in here the Pula, the PA02. Where's the PA02? PA02, there we go, PA02. Okay, so The Performer 5 and the PA02, as you can see, very similar, very similar, very similar. Bass, mids, both of them got fantastic mid presentation, vocals, plenty of treble, excellent soundstage, excellent, really good. When we put the Bedong into the equation, we see graphically something very similar. And to an extent, at lower volumes, I could say, yes, okay, they kind of trade blows with each other to a certain extent. But then when you start pushing a little bit more, or depending on what source you're going to have, and note that this is the Freedom, this is the PA02 and the Performer 5, also measured with their full, so that everything is on the same level. You start noticing that the Bedong just starts showing its lack of being as polished as the other two. Other two are very polished, very elegant, very classy in the way they present their mids, upper mids, and treble, while the Bedong is just a little bit overly harsh, unnecessarily harsh, or aggressive. And all of that is just basically down to just you noticing more that BA timbre. It's maybe I'm just making a big deal of it, but this is the reality. It's a $180 product. It got very tough competition. I did a very small selection. You don't have a margin to fail. You have to have everything being or hitting the dots, and if they had just slightly corrected the tuning there, or then added the switches like I mentioned, like I alluded to before, to give us a slightly different tuning here of the upper frequencies of the mids, upper mids, and treble especially, I think the Bedong would make more sense more easily. Okay, in terms of the bass, funny enough, although you would think that the bass of these two, which is very similar, would match the Bedong easily, the truth is, yes, they do to a certain extent, but I found, I don't know why, but I just found that the Performer 5, its bass versus the Bedong, and the PA02, its bass versus the Bedong, I was able to pick up more on the differences between the Aful and the Bedong than I was on the PA and the Bedong. The PA's bass, when I do this comparison, and the Performer 5's bass, when I do this comparison, the PA02 just comes across a little bit better. It's very minor, and I struggled with this one because I picked up on it, and then I had to go back and forth, but you can pick up on it. At least I was able to pick up on it. But look, guys, this is me nitpicking, and it's not huge. At the end of the day, this is the reality. You see here a difference which doesn't exactly translate to the reality when you are listening to it. Okay, and that's basically it. That's this part done. Now, what I wanted to show you is what I showed you as well with regards to the CVJ IEMs, that depending on what dongle was being used and on the configuration, there's an effect. With regards to for example, the PA02, I also did that test, and if I measure the PA02 using, for example, here the Acme, you're going to find it interesting. Okay, there. If I measured with the Acme, this is how the PA02 comes across, as being way more bassy than what it actually is in reality. Actually, if I use that, and if I put the Bedong, you want to see, you think, oh, okay, it's got basically the same bass. No, they don't have basically the same bass. That's the reality. Okay, this is the PA02 in the red, using the Acme dongle, versus the CVJ Bedong using the Aful dongle. And you would think, okay, that's basically the same. No, it's not basically the same. There is a difference there. It's a minor difference, but there is a difference. This honestly is very, very interesting. These differences are very, very interesting. And then the other one that I also saw these differences, and that further complicate things and make the amount of variables that are involved when we're doing the comparisons, it's ear anatomy which is going to be detrimental to how one hears an IM and another person. The tip that you use, it's going to be as well. But as you can see, even the source does play a difference, and you can see graphically. I'm showing you now here graphically there are differences. Okay, this is now the Butastur using the Acme, and then the Full, and also the Colorfly M1P. So this is using the Acme, this is using the Full, Snowy Night, and this is using the Colorfly. And you can notice the difference. Well, graphically you straight away do see a difference, but audibly, this is how you also. This is how you. How can I? I don't want to get confusing. I don't want to get confusing and confuse you guys. When people were saying, "Oh no, we found the Butastur very bright," and so on and so forth. Well, maybe what happened was when they listened to the Butastur, they listened to the Butastur with the source like the Acme, which has a tendency of emphasizing slightly more here the upper mids and the treble, and making the bass overall just be lower level, as opposed to the Snowy Night or the Colorfly or the Q15, which give this sort of a response, which doesn't emphasize as much the high end, but gives the bass that extra little bit amount of weight, and that's how I like it. That's what I heard, because those are the sources that I hear for the most part. It's sources using the Cirrus Logic chip. So when I'm listening to the Butastur with the Yuki, or when now I'm using it with the Q15, or I'm now using it with the Colorfly, the M1P, or with the Full, or even with the Simgot, this is what I hear. I hear not that amount of crazy emphasized treble like some people talk about, as opposed to when I listen to it, for example, on the Acme. Yes, then the treble does come up a little bit more. It still sounds good, but I just prefer it with the other setup. And this goes to, again, show, like I was saying earlier, it's not just about your ear anatomy and how your ear anatomy is, and what ear tips you're using. There's a number of factors which are very important, and definitely the sort of source that you're going to have will affect. And like I was saying, the Bedong using the Full, it sounds significantly better. Not better, but it sounds significantly better than when I use the Acme or other dongle decks that sounded similar to that measured similar to the Acme. Like I mentioned before, the Panon, the Tail, the 9038. It's not that they are bad dongles. They're not bad dongles. It's just the way that they've been tuned, I guess, if you want to call it that way. And the way they match, and that their output impedance then matches with the impedance that is presented by the IM, it gives noticeable differences. And that's why then we have all of this confusion sometimes of, oh, this IM sounds absolutely amazing, no, this IM sounds like garbage. It makes me question, inclusively, it makes me question when Clinical now recently did his reviews or gave his opinion about Simgot, and he was so harsh. It makes me question, was it his opinion based on him, on maybe a source that wasn't exactly the ideal, which I have a hard time in believing. But anyway, let's assume that he didn't have a source that really matched the Simgots properly, or was there maybe perhaps an alter reason for him not praising the Simgots as well as they've been praised by everybody? I mean, yes, sometimes the majority can be wrong and one person is right. But the truth is, when it comes to the Simgots, I think it's unanimous that they are very well tuned IEMs, and it could very well be that he maybe just made the wrong choice of source when he was assessing them. Anyway, food for thought, guys. I'll wrap it up. This has been a long video. I hope you guys were able to get a good idea about the Bedong. I'll repeat what I said earlier. get a chance to listen to it. It's a nice IM. I think its biggest issue really is just the price point that it's at, and the competition that it's got, which is very tough. But otherwise, it's a nice IM. I can't really say that it isn't a nice IM, but listen to it. Do listen to it. Don't just go outright and buy it and take my word for it. Okay. Anyway, you take care now. Bye bye.